Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. I'm not just saying that. Everything you've heard this morning is a great example of how Pennsylvania DOC is leading the country, leading the United States with cutting-edge corrections. It's amazing. Many of you may not know this, but certainly Secretary Wetzel does. The amount of times that I've contacted the good secretary for him to reach out to another state that's looking at trying something innovative, trying something new, you just can't help to go to Pennsylvania first. Beta Gov, shout out to the excellent work that you guys are doing. We're super excited here in St. Louis. In about 3 weeks, we're going to be in St. Louis at our ASCA summer meeting. And Beta Gov is going to be giving us a presentation to every single director of the United States of Corrections. And so we're excited about all the things that you guys are doing. And together, you guys have made an excellent, excellent team. So right now, I live in Boise, Idaho, and I've lived out there for about 20 years. As John said, I was raised in Pittsburgh. The reason why it took no hesitation when I got an email from John saying, "Hey, would you be interested in coming out and speaking to some of our staff?" The reason why I wanted to come out here is first and foremost my care and concern for you. I've spent 20 plus years in the business. I started as a correctional officer. I've worked through all of our prisons and probation and parole and that kind of stuff. And I have a deep, deep care and concern for you. This camaraderie, this brotherhood, this sisterhood that we all benefit greatly from is meaningful. And so anytime I get a chance to remind each of us in this profession that what you do matters, I'll never pass up an opportunity like that. Before I go any further, I want to recognize, this cute girl right in the front is my mom, Linda. She lives in, I know it's weird, but I travel everywhere with her. Does my laundry. No, she lives in Doylestown, and some of you may know, about an hour and a half from here, 2 hours from here. So I had the opportunity to see her with this trip as well. So back in 2003, I was the warden at one of our prisons in Idaho, and pretty new warden. And we had one of our staff members named Lisa Hiskett was tragically killed. And if I didn't know it before then, it certainly was a light bulb moment for me as I sat in that funeral and watched our honor guard with their Class A uniforms and white gloves guarding Lisa's casket. As I looked around and saw uniforms from all the surrounding states in Idaho, certainly everywhere in Idaho, police officers, I mean, you name it, everyone it seemed in the Northwest was attending this funeral. Her husband, Mike, was a correctional officer with us as well. But it hit me as I sat there as the warden watching that like a gut punch. You don't get that if you're the produce manager of a grocery store down the road. You don't get that type of brotherhood and sisterhood, that camaraderie, if you work in a technology store in downtown Harrisburg. You only get that when you're in a profession like ours, when you're in a job that matters, when you are shoulder to shoulder with people that you love, who love you, who only understand this job because they've done it. No one understands these things that you do. You've got to be in these shoes. I was telling my mom early this morning, the bravery that's in this room, the courage that's in this room, whether you wear a uniform or not, if you're working in or around inmates, probationers, parolees, it takes an amazing amount of courage to walk into a penitentiary dining where there's 500 inmates and you're walking in and seeing maybe another person that's in the same uniform as you are. It takes an amazing amount of courage. And it's not something that can be taught. It's something you have to fake to walk in there. And it takes a lot of bravery. And I have such a deep amount of respect for each and every one of you, but for this profession. One of the things that attracted me to this job that I'm in today is that it's allowing me on a national level to show you off. If you follow any of us on our social media, it's ASCA, ASCA Leadership, and then you can search that for LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, you'll see every single post multiple times a day, including today being here, is just pointing the microscope on you. Everything that you are doing, you are amazing, you're unique, and it needs to be celebrated. We have so many people that are detractors from us. We have so many naysayers that think that you are ogres, and it's simply not true. And it's high time we, as a family, a correctional family, 400,000 strong, 400,000 correctional professionals across the United States, that we get shoulder to shoulder with each other and say, enough. Enough. We're going to tell our story, and you're going to hear it whether you like it or not. We're just going to keep at that door, keep knocking at that door, because you are worth it. And good things come when people recognize exactly what it is you do. I was attracted also to the point that we're going to talk about restrictive housing, that you guys are going through restrictive housing reforms and things like that. I really feel like, maybe like many of you in the room, but starting my career off as a correctional officer, I come from a family of cops. Both my older brothers were police officers. I have an uncle who's a chief of police. I have cousins that are police officers, and that was definitely the role I was going after college. But kind of corrections called first, so I thought I'll do this until a cop job comes up, and and then I kind of fell in love with it. But one of my first posts was in segregation. If you were to talk into the 25-year version of Kevin Kempf today, and started to roll some crap out about restrictive housing reform, I would have dug in on you. I had this belief that you send inmates to the hole, put them in segregation. That's just how I thought back then. Now, fast forward however many years, and I know today it doesn't work. And what does work is it's only temporary. If you really want to change people's behavior, you've got to do the things that you guys are doing. You've got to try different things. I have twin 14-year-old girls and a 12-year-old boy at home. And my girls, one takes after their mom, my wife, and one takes after me. The one that takes after me, Maddie, is tough as nails. She's bullheaded, she's emotional, she's all of those types of things, right? When I tell Maddie to go to her room, she does something stupid, and I'm like, Maddie, go to your room. She'll be like, I'll go to my friggin' room, right? And up the stairs she goes. When I say, leave that iPhone down here. This little 14-year-old Mormon girl is dropping F-bombs and stomping her feet and freaking out and flinging that phone to me. She freaks out. That matters to her. Go into her room. I bet we have over 1,000 years of experience in this room, of correctional experience. Don't raise your hand to this, but I'm betting we'd be hard-pressed to find one example where any one of you or myself went to an inmate in the rec yard and said, dude, turn around, put your hands behind your back, you're going to segregation, take you to the hole. We would be hard-pressed to find one example where they just took off running. No, not going. And they just freaking ran away from you or tried to get off the unit. Like almost 100% of the time, they turn around, put their hands behind their back and go. Why? It's nothing to them. They'll go all day long. Just like my little Maddie, she'll go all day long. But tap into something that they give a shit about, that they care about, well, damn, now we've got some attention, right? And as long as I have that iPhone of Maddie's for a short period of time, if she gets mouthy a couple of days later, and I'll say, kick over that iPhone, she'll be like, oh, I'm good, I'm sorry. Like that taps into, but that works for Maddie. What works for Tommy, my son, he doesn't care. He's not on social media, he's not snapping at anyone, he's not doing any of that stuff, right? He watches stupid vlogs all the time, and he knows that if I take that iPhone away from him, he'll just get caught up on a few days later. So I tap into what works for him. This kid lives outside. That's all he wants to do is be outside and play soccer, and he wake surfs and does all these kind of different things and stuff. Well, that's what I shut off for him, for a day or two, or whatever it might be. So I love hearing what you guys are doing because you're doing it the right way. You're tapping into things that work and not just doing what we've always done in corrections and just send people to segregation. We're kidding ourselves that on day 4 of an inmate sitting in the hole that they go, gosh dang it, you know what? I just figured it out. I just figured it out. I'm not going to do that again. That's not what they do. Never. It's not what they do. So, I love what I heard this morning. I love empowering that correctional officer to make decisions on the spot. I love that. Love it. It fires me up. So, last thing, and I'm gonna kind of veer towards the staff wellness piece. Natasha, is that your name, Natasha? Where are you, Natasha? Thank you so much for your bravery and sharing what you did. Amazing. I love college football. Love it. I live for it. On Saturdays, you can find me on my couch, feet up, watching college football all day long and tweeting at John all the time. He and I tweet back and forth about that and UFC. But anyways, I love college football. And a couple years ago, I'm sitting there watching the game, and my wife, I have this super hot looking wife, and my wife goes out in the garage. I hear her go out in the garage. And the second she goes out there, I hear this screaming shriek from her. And so at the next commercial break, I went out there and was like, I'm just kidding. I don't love college football that much. So I hear that shriek, boom, I pop right up, I go screaming outside, right? And there's my wife, and she is like frozen in fear. And through this like stuttering, I can hear that she just saw a mouse in the garage. So I'm like, all right, I'm a man, and gotta protect my girl and whatnot. And so I was like, okay. So I get her safely back inside, and I knew college football was gonna be over for me for that afternoon. So what I did is I opened up my garage door, and I started to kind of survey my garage. Just kind of started looking around a little bit. Came up with a plan. And so what I did was I figured I needed about 5 mouse traps that I was gonna put all around my garage. So I go to the store, right? I go get those like cheapy mouse traps. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like super dangerous ones if your hands get caught in them. So I go and get like 5 of those things, and I get this huge hunk of cheddar cheese. Come back to the house, and I start to set up these mouse traps. Now, I'm probably going to tell you a little bit about my personality as I tell you this story. But so what I do is I started to look about like where I should put these mouse traps, right? And obviously I wanted to put them where mice go. I knew if I was going to put them on top of a car or something, that was going to happen. So we have this refrigerator in the garage. So I took one of those mouse traps, and I went to the back of that refrigerator, and I started to make a trail from kind of in front of the refrigerator of little pieces of cheese all the way back to that mouse trap. And of course, as I did that, it was like 4 or 5 pieces of cheese, and so I would save like the big kind of juicy piece of that cheddar for that mouse trap, and I was very, very delicate to put that on that trap before it would snap, of course, on my fingers. And I continued to do that throughout this garage. I made those trails right back to those traps. And so when I was done, I figured I had a pretty good plan. I put one behind the refrigerator. Like the Christmas before, I was lazy. That popcorn garland stuff you do around the Christmas tree. I instead of like properly throwing that away, I put it in all of my other like decorations and crap and put that in the garage. And so I knew they're probably eating the popcorn. So I put one back there by the popcorn, and so on and so forth. Well, it didn't take long. Of course, for me to have success. And when I had that first mouse in there, matter of fact, I could hear it. I could hear that snap, and it was later that evening. When I heard that snap, I thought, it's on, right? Success. I went out there, and I started to look down at this mouse, I have no idea where it came from, but it hit me there. How in the world did that mouse fall for what I put in front of him? If you know anything about like rodents and stuff like that, you'll hear all the time, it's like the one thing that'll survive like a nuclear war. They're such survivalists. They have an unbelievable knack to survive. And yet, I have this cheap mousetrap with a big hunk of cheese sitting on it, and they fell for it. And I just got thinking about how they did that. Here is what I came up with. Here's my conclusion, and I'm going to tell you how it ties into you and I. I'm betting that mouse came along once I left the garage and saw that first piece of cheese. Smelled it, checked it out, ate it. Looked up, saw another one. Got a little closer, maybe a little bit suspicious, smelled it, ate it, looked up, and so on and so forth. And then that big hunk of cheese, the big piece of cheddar cheese sitting on that trap that he must have no doubt knew was trouble. I'm betting he probably saw that thing and thought, that's trouble. But if he could just get that piece that's hanging, and that trap gets him. This is my worry for us. Natasha talked about it. I worry that this is how we get in trouble. If an alarm sounded right now and there was trouble outside with inmates or whatnot, 100% confidence we're going to win that fight every time. In any one of your facilities, you're going to win that fight every time. You've got resources, you've got training, you got some huge muscled up dudes over here to the left, but we're going to win that fight every time, right? You're amazing at what you do, amazing at what you do. The fight I'm most worried about for you and for me are those traps in our lives. What are they? You have to recognize what they are for you. For you, it might be alcohol, it might be prescription medication, it might be a toxic relationship you're in. For me, clearly food. It's like, it's things that I struggle with, and if not kept in check, that's what's going to get me. Depression, pride, not seeking help or assistance from people that love you to the left and right of you. People that we're in this thing together with. You're unique. You are unique. You're different than other people. You're treated differently than other people for a good reason, because you're amazing. You truly are. And I think that we just have to watch out for ourselves, is that uniqueness and that ability sometimes that we're kind of isolated off into ourselves can get us in trouble, can come across some traps in our lives that we recognize as not being good for us, but we kind of do it anyways, and we recognize that, like that big one that we know is going to jam us up, whatever that might be. Sometimes that justification that we can talk about ourselves is going, man, maybe if I just nibbled on a little bit, and it's got us. It's got us in its trap or its snare, and it's not good for us. And so my message to you, if you've heard nothing else from me today, is you do matter. You absolutely matter. You're amazing and you're unique. I am so proud to be amongst you, to be shoulder to shoulder with you, to show off this profession that we're a part of. You're doing amazing things. Very rarely will you see the mother that's at home that you're affecting her son or daughter. Very rarely are you going to be able to see the spouse at home that's getting someone back better than how they left. You're not going to see those things. And so you're going to have to do everything you possibly can to find ways to remind yourself that the job that you do matters. You're affecting public safety like no other organization can. No other law enforcement profession like corrections can affect public safety. No one. And that's amazing. And you're part of it. And I'm part of it. And I love being together with you. So I wish you a wonderful day. I am so proud to be friends with your good secretary. So proud to be in front of you guys. I'm telling you, I show you guys off all the time because of all the amazing things that you're doing, and I wish you all the best of luck in the future. Thank you.